Yo, what's poppin'? It's Thomathan. We have the last APAC review of the fifth Overwatch League season. This was to determine between the Hunters, Charge, and Spark, the last team from the East to make it into the playoffs. And the results may shock you. I had this pegged as a Charge victory, but they did not even get past the Hunters. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, before I get into this, let me know down below your thoughts on these matches and how you think the Spark are going to do in the playoffs. Because spoiler alert, it is the Spark who makes it. And like this video if you like it, subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content because I do try to upload daily, although there probably won't be any NA reviews this week because I'm just kind of busy, and if there's any week to miss, it's this week because a lot of the matches are pretty sleeper. So, that's just how it goes. But yeah, I will have to take a look at how the Toronto Defiant look awful because I know they're tragic right now, and I did not see the game yesterday, so that's going to be something I am not looking forward to subjecting myself to. But anyway, Chengdu Hunters against the Guangzhou Charge ends up being a 3-2 for the Hunters, and right out the gate, you have an absolute dominant performance from the Charge. The Hunters looked really, really bad. It did not look good. I like the prophecy that was foretold by everyone who was watching APAC. Just didn't think it was true until it wasn't. So the Hunters playing Jinmu, Leaf, Daisy, Monk, and Nisha. But Daisy would quickly become Gaga after 2 maps, and you would never see Daisy again. Maybe never again an Owl. I would not be surprised. And then the Charge playing Jimmy, Choice, I1, Piggy, Xerneas, and Farway. And this does mean Aprita will not be playing at all this whole season. He's still going to be considered a rookie, I believe, next season if he does play. And I'm kind of upset. I was hyped to see some Aprita. I thought maybe in the playoffs we'll see him. Who knows? But Jimmy owns him, I guess. So Busan ends up being a 2-0 for the Charge. The only difference in compositions being Chengdu on the Tracer and Charge on the Genji, with the rest of the comp being Sojourn, Zarya, Bap, and Lucio. We do see the Baptiste, which was pretty popular last week by a lot of the top teams in NA and a little bit in APAC. But, it's nice to see it come through. It doesn't come through all the way, and I don't know if I really value it as much in the Zarya mirror. To me, it's like you use him more for that sustainability that you have and the free ability to, like, survive better just in the dive. But I don't know. It looks okay. So anyway, downtown 122 for the Charge, and they just look much more comfortable in this composition. Everything they do looks better. Jimmy's looking great. Jinmu's like non-existent. Piggy is an absolute force. Choice A1, my goat. And it all looks better. The only reason that Hunters got anything was because Leave was able to kill 2, and they got 22% off of it. But like, they just kind of pulled up and won. So it's just like the comfortability thing because this is their comp. This is their comp. It is not Hunter's comp. It's that simple. And Mecha base more of the same. You get Jimmy on the Genji this time, and he's going toe to toe with Choice A1. So not even a difference there. It doesn't really matter. At the beginning, you had some trades, but then Daisy dies and Piggy doesn't. So it's like, who's going to win, the team with a tank or the team without a tank? Ooh, tough one. So Charge take that initial cat. Even though maybe the trades were a little more number sided to the Hunters, they still won it. And the Charge, they don't really care. They go through the window. They go through Monk's window that he puts out. Piggy does die there, to be honest, but Choice One's able to clean up because Choice One's that guy. And then he wins next fight. And then you get a solo graph on the Piggy. And that's the only reason the Hunters got any percentage there is because, you solo graph Piggy, and then they end up winning that way. But it's just a wrap, and he comes back and he kills 3 because he's like, oh, I died. Okay, I better pop off here. And it just wins. So then we go to King's Road, which is a 3-1 for the Charge, and now you have Chengdu playing the Tracer Sojourn Zarya again, but this time they're on the Ana Brig with the Charge playing this with the Genji Charge playing the Genji variant and still on the Lucio Bap. And I much prefer the Charge's composition here because you have that Lucio to maneuver around the map better and be able to control tempo. Because what is the Brig really doing? You're kind of like disrupting Choice A1 a little bit, but ultimately not nearly as much as the Lucio would get you with the Zarya. My cat's at the door. I'm not letting him in. So yeah, eventually you would get Nisha over to the Lucio on the Chengdu offense, but it's not really. It's like almost too little too late in a way because there's just no reason for the Brig, I think. But anyway, on the Charge offense, they immediately roll through A by Choice A1 killing both supports. They push you the choke with the window. And then they just keep going. There is a moment where Daisy grabs the subway high ground at the end of B for some reason. He catches 3 in it, but it's up on the high ground. No one can really follow up There's just nothing there, and Chargers use their ults and they cap B, so this is a complete roll. And it looks like they're just gonna roll C as well, but you do get some misplays there. You get a whiffed grab from Piggy. You get the Chengdu supports coming back and they're just winning. And Chengdu do hold on until Chengdu just don't touch the point, which you will get a lot of actually for the rest of this review, because guess what? That happens a bit too often, a bit more often than you would like, and the amount that I would like is 0. But god damn, they're allergic to the point, I think. And then we go over to the Hunters offense where you get them back on the Lucio, and it's looking pretty bad, to be honest. It was not looking good at all. I thought they were going to get full health almost completely. But there were some misplays there. You get Choice A1 kind of consistently going a bit too far forward, being maybe a bit too aggressive. And I don't know. It just kind of works out for them in the end, even though it doesn't really work out. They don't cap anything. They just cap A. And it took a long time to do it. Eventually, they get there with, like, ultimates. But I don't know. It's like there was a Piggy grab, and then they're isolating Piggy well, but they're not actually going on him. Like, after you go through A using your ult, because you build levels. You have 4 minutes to get through A. If you don't get through King's Row A at this point in the season, what are you doing? So they get through A, right? You go to B. You isolate Piggy off to the right side alley, like around that bookshelf corner, and you just leave him there. And he whiffed his grab in the previous fight. Like, he didn't whiff it. He used it actively. It hit things, but there was just no one alive, and you gave up the point. He just sits there on the right-hand side and just builds 80% of a graph, and they don't look at him. I have no clue what's going on there. Just push him. He doesn't have his supports there. I don't know why you wouldn't just go on him. And anyway, you do get the Chengdu Hunters being pushed into their spawn, but then you get another graph win, and you just push towards the end of B, and you're looking to go fine, but it's in overtime now. You get a Choice A1 Blade, you get a Jimmy doing things, and the Chargers kind of hold on. They end up winning map 2. Then we go over to Dorado, and this is where Gaga comes in, and this is the turning point, the TSN turning point of the series, or what is it? I think that's what it was called, or what? Yeah, TSN turning point. So you get Dorado, 3-1 win. Hunters, they just roll through A. It's done. They're on the Sombra Tracer, Winston on a Brig, charge on the Sombra Tracer, D.Va, Zen on it, and the D.Va comp looks like it should be better. D.Va plus Zen should just blow up the Winston, but it never happens. Gaga is being elusive right now. So they roll through A. Their dive just killing the supports. And then Jinmu gets an EMP. However, Gaga dies 5% off Primal, so they're able to hold on B, the Charger. But it would not last for long, because you get Nano Gaga, he gets a kill, Choice A1 gets slept, Leave gets Cernius, and like Chengdu just keep on going. And it's looking kind of okay for the Chargers, because you put Nano Piggy on the point, you think, oh, maybe they can come back with reinforcements. No shot. So they end up capping B as well, and then they just push all the way to the end. Like, the biggest thing here for the Chargers is they kept getting staggered. You'd get staggered all the time. You get one fight win kind of on C. It didn't even feel like a fight win. It was more like a recontest. They basically gave up all of C for free just because they kept getting staggered out. And even in the one fight they did have, they were on the back foot the whole time with the Hunters controlling tempo. And Nisha had no deaths, which tells you how dominant the Hunters were, because they weren't able to kill the Brigida. You can't kill the Brigida when you're playing Sombra Tracer D.Va? Like, what? You're just not diving correctly. So just dominant from the Hunters there. And on the Chargers offense, they were stuck on A for so long. They finally cap A by sticking Monk, and then you get a kill on Anisha, and suddenly you're chilling. They don't actually touch for the recontest, even though they do use the EMP, but they don't actually touch. And you get a Pigston play, but whenever you see the Pigston come out, you're kind of thinking it's a loss unless it's on Ilios, because it's like, you have Gaga on Dorito Gaga. He's just chilling on B defense. You have that Winston comp. It's probably the best Winston comp in the game right now, or the best Winston point is Dorado. So it's like, it's just a no-brainer that Hunters are going to win there. Especially with how long it took them to get through A. I believe it was an overtime. So you're just not winning. You're not going to build up your ultimate time. And then you get new Queen Street. And this is where The Charge should have closed it out. You have the Zarya comp. You are the Zarya guys. That's what you are. And you're playing New Queen Street. They've been fantastic on New Queen Street all stage, even last stage. They were fantastic on it. And they lose 99 to 92 to the same comp. They're not switching anything up. Just run the Sombra Tracer. And they're playing the Sombra, Genji, Zarya, Lucio, Ana. I do question why you don't play the Reaper here. And it's like, yeah, Choice A1's not really a Reaper guy. That's fair. But, like, I think you just have to pressure Gaga in some capacity. Because this entire map, he was free to basically go in, limit, like, he knows his limits. He limit tested these. He plays right to the limit, takes a ton of damage, jumps back to Monk on the Ana. He heals him up. You're farming Nano Boost super well. You're controlling space really well. And it just felt like Gaga was just playing them like a fiddle. That being said, Charge did push initially to that checkpoint pretty quickly, but you let the Hunter's comp build up some win conditions. You let the Nano Winston go. You let the EMPs go. And yeah, while you do have Nano Blade on the other side, I think the Winston just makes Nano Boost so much more deadly in a way. Because what are you gonna do unless you hit that sleep dart? You're just kind of, it's just lost. It feels like, and the Charge just weren't able to use their ultimates to their best advantage. I guess I don't really know how to describe it. Because you'd think that the Charge have the better ultimate cycle, but it just didn't feel like that to me. Especially with the Primal, Gaga was so efficient with his Primal, which might have been a difference maker. Is because sometimes you need to use EMP plus something if you're going into another EMP. But Gaga is just able to get enough value with that Primal Rage that he didn't really need it. So yeah, that's the biggest thing, I guess. So somehow they let the Winston live for too long. They're just gonna lose. That's the biggest thing from New Queen Street. And then we go on to Oasis, which is not a 2-0 for the Charge. It's a 2-1 for the Hunters. Or yeah. And then you again, same comp, Sombra Tracer, Winston on a Brig into the Sombra Tracer, Zarya, Luciana. They're going to try to get it. The Gardens goes the way of Chengdu. And that is the big one. Because City Center, it's going to go Chengdu. Because it's the Winston comp on City Center. That's how it is. University, it's going to go Charge. Because it's the Zarya comp on University. The Rush map, the Winston map, they win their respective maps. Garden was the big one. And it goes the way of Chengdu. And that is massive. This was the one they needed. And they get it. Initially, though, it does go to the Charge, that first cap, because Gaga immediately slept and antied and died. And that's what they needed to do to Gaga every single time. You have to get that sleep there. You have to get that anti. You have to just focus him down, kill him. He's gone. Unless you're trading the backline, which you're not really doing on the Zarya comp, unless you're just saying, Choice A1, here's the bubble, go in with Jimmy and do what you must. But it wasn't happening. So anyway, another big thing about this composition, the Nano Blade's not as good as a win condition as you'd think, because Jinmu on the Sombra was an absolute demon at hacking Choice A1. He would get insta-hacked, and suddenly he doesn't win. Because you can't dash on anyone, or whenever you get that dash back in 1.75 seconds, they're already kited away enough that it doesn't actually reach anything. So the Nano Blade wasn't actually a win condition, and maybe that's partially why it felt like back in New Queen Street, the ult rotation wasn't there, because the Nano Blade was just nothing. It was completely nothing. Then you have the EMPs versus Nano, Winston, and Graph. Basically, is the main win conditions. And it didn't really pan out because of how smart they were and how they were playing against the Nano Blade. But yeah, that forces him to go over to the Tracer, and then you're playing Tracer, Sombra, and Zarya suddenly doesn't really have anyone to bubble consistently, because you can kind of bubble Tracer, but it's like not as effective. So it doesn't really work out as well. And they just kind of hold out, because you see Jimui's EMPs get bigger value, especially because you have the rally. The rally does help this a lot. You rally up whenever the EMP comes out. Everyone on your team gets that HP. It doesn't go away like the beat does. So the Chengdu's EMP normally gets more effective. It also is much more effective against Zarya than Winston. It just felt like the Hunters... It felt like the Charge didn't adapt to what the Hunters were doing. And the Hunters, suddenly, they figured it out. They looked really good on this. The synchronization was there. And the Charge didn't adapt. And then you go over to University, and it's just gonna be how it is, you know? You get Leave going to the Sojourn, Jinmu back on the Genji, and Nisha on the Lucio, but it doesn't really matter because it's the Rush map. and Gaga just kind of wasn't able to go anywhere because that whole thing where he needs to live super well and he needs to test those limits. The limits are a lot smaller on this map. You can't jump back to safety. Jumping back to safety isn't only as much like a Genji dash or something like that. So it's very easy for the Charge to follow up on that. And the Charge win the rush map as they should. In the city center, Hunters win the Winston map. So it's pretty simple there. The biggest thing here on this map, it wasn't impossible for the Charge to win it, but they took the point I like early, and then they used 4 ults to hold on because their original fight plan was like a nanoblade, or it was a grav, and then the nanoblade was there because the grav didn't work. And in the end, they just used 4 ults to win the fight. And then Hunter's like, okay, well, we'll lose to 4 ults. That's okay with us. And they come back and they just kind of win because then they didn't have any ults. They didn't build anything else for the rest of that entire series. And that's that. So my player match is going to go to Gaga because it's just night and day, the difference between the two of them. Every single player on the Hunters looked better with Gaga, and the coordination was just there. And even though the Zarya comp might have been better on New Queen Street, you can argue it's better on Gardens, but it's pretty even. Like, it just felt like they just knew what they were doing better. And I'm gonna say Gaga all day. And now we have the final APAC match of the year, the Chengdu Hunters against the Hangzhou Spark. And you would think this is kind of not the Spark because they've only won 2 maps in their last half, and it's looked really bad. But they actually just 3-0. They look good. And this was kind of the Spark that we saw against the Seoul Dynasty. We knew they had this potential. Happy that they brought it out. So, Spark playing Shy, Pineapple, Bernard, SUPERICH, and Teru. Daisy's still firmly on the bench. Because they were like, if you're not winning with Gaga, you're not winning at all. That's just how it is. So Oasis does go 2-1 for the Spark, with them playing Sojourn, Tracer, Zarya, Lucio, Bap. And we know what the Hunters are doing with their Sombra Tracer. No surprise there. And this map was extremely close. And it's just like Shy. That's the biggest thing here. Shy wins the first fight. He wins the second fight. He doesn't win the third fight because of the MP. And he doesn't win the fourth fight either because Gaga just lives. But what he does win is the last fight, which is the most important one because that was the last fight, and that's the one you need to win. So they take point with the window, and they come back, and then Chengdu give the point because of it. They just give it. And they come back with an EMP, and they flip back, and it looks really bad. But then Shy comes back, and he kills both supports. And then you're like, oh, okay, I guess it's winnable. So Spark just kind of win. They're coming up on ults. They're very close. They get the ultimates and secure the round win. So they do what the Charge previous failed to do and win on Gardens with the Zarya comp. And from there, it goes as you expect. City Center goes to Winston. University goes to the Zarya. And it's just that. And it's even more one-sided this time in both ways because the City Center is 100-44. And it was just like Shy just kept getting perma-dived. Like Gaga would just boom on the Shy every time. And Shy wasn't able to pop off in the same way. Like Spark were able to win because like Grav and like, Shy's able to get you that first win. But anyway, not really there. And then University was really bad because it was even worse than whenever they played against the Charge just previous. Because anytime Gaga would go in, there were multiple times where he would go into the pit for that Mega, and then Spark would just win the fight. If he went into the pit, it was an instant win, unless he had jump, and he never did. Because he goes down, and then suddenly the Spark are like, oh, he can't, they just don't have a tank for 5 seconds. So we're going to push up, control the entire point. Whenever he comes back up, his healers can't help him at all because we've zoned them out, and he just dies. And in the next fight, he gets nano boosted, but he goes into the pit. And it's like, now you've wasted a nano boost, and we can still do that exact same thing. So it works out really well. And the 18% the Charge basically get on University here is just like a for fun kind of. It's just a for fun thing. But the problem here is that the Hunters didn't trigger overtime again, which is something else you'll notice. This is the second time, I believe, that the Hunters did not touch, and it would not be the last. It would not be the last. But yeah. Anyway, going over to Paraiso. And this is where the Sparks say, you know what? We'll just take them Winston Mirror because we have Gushway. Why not? So you get them playing Sojourn, Tracer, Winston, Brigana into Genji. Sojourn, Winston, Brigana. And this is, again, mostly Shy. A lot of Shy going on. So on Chengdu's offense, they do kill Shy. And then Spark just gave up a lot of space. But Gaga makes a critical error. He's trying to kill the backline. He's trying to primal them off the map, but he takes far too long to get Super-Rich off the map. Almost the entire primal. He could have got them both. It looked like it was going to be really easy for him for a Winston or Gaga's caliber, but he just is unable to do it. So then you get a Nano on the Gushway, and you get Pineapple going crazy on the backline, and then Spark hold on. Eventually, Jinmu hits a Nano Blade, and they do cap game, because of course they do with Nano Blade. But you get a Nano Clock stabilization at the beginning of B. And it looks like Chengdu are going to cap out B. And they do, actually. But it does come at a cost. Mostly to Spark, though, because they did use Rally and Primal completed compared to their Nano Blade, but they were probably going to use a Nano Blade anyway. So I think Spark could have just held their losses there and just kind of saved those ults. And from there, they just kind of staggered them out and secured the final map there and finished the map off. Then you go over to the Sparks offense, where you get Jimu on the Tracer now. And this time you get Chengdu going very aggressive onto the backline. Not the same as the Spark at all. They just dive in onto the backline. Luckily, the Spark are able to get enough trades, and they kind of lose the fight, but at the same time, Chengdu are forced to give up a ton of space because Spark have much closer spawns. So it doesn't. They lose the fight in the end despite winning it. And then you have Pineapple and Gushway going together on the backline once again. The synergy very much there. And Gaga was able to find it long enough for reinforcements, and Leave got 2 kills, and it was like, oh, okay, they can actually hold on, but then Shy comes back and kills 3. And then he rolls through B, and then he rolls through C as well, because he's Shy, and he is the best Sojourn maybe in the game, and maybe should have been an MVP nominee, but whatever, I'm over it. And they end up capping out with 23 more seconds than Chengdu, and the only real time they were stopped was on A. Then you get the Chengdu offense, and you get the Spark actually losing A, but they contest early on B, because Pineapple hit a nice pulse bomb onto Nisha, and they hold on there. And Jimmy was building the blade, and he does some damage, but he isn't able to actually kill and stay on the point at the same time, so he falls off. Jimmy fell off plus ratio. Spark on their offense, Chengdu do that same thing again. They win very decisively now, no more trades. However, Shy kills 4, so don't worry about that. And then Gaga touches the point, but then he just leaves the point. He just walks off. And that's it. We don't know what would have happened there. He's gone. Just walks off. Completely just walks off. No pressure. He was in his bubble. He had full HP. He simply walked off the point. It was tragic to see. Unreal to see. Anyway, Dorado, 3-2 for the Spark. You get Sombra against Sojourn for the Spark, because they've realized, you know what, let's stop putting our most carry player on Sombra. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Put him on the Sojourn, because he can carry on that guy. That works out. Chengdu on their offense, it is absolutely not abysmal, but Gushway built Primal 65% faster than Gaga did. Gushway heavily outperformed Gaga on this Winston basically the entire series. And basically, Chengdu didn't get their first kill until 2 minutes and 30 seconds in, when they get a stick onto Shy. So that kind of tells you just like how dominant they were being at the beginning there. Eventually, Chengdu do push through the choke, and they trade Rally for Primal, and the Spark get a recontest, which forces the EMP, and then Chengdu push into B. And they push forward, and you get a really good Primal from Gaga to actually put SUPERICH into the backline. Jinmu gets an EMP next fight, and they cap B pretty easily. But on C, you get some stabilization because Pineapple goes to work, and then you get a great stop, and then basically that's it. Because of how long it took A, it doesn't matter that you pretty much roll through B. You don't have a lot of time left. It's going up to the final fight on C. And the Spark do a great job stopping Jinmu from initiating with his EMP. Pineapple goes, scouts out where he is. He doesn't deal with him, but he buys enough time that he's not the one that has to touch. It is Leave that has to touch. And they can't use that EMP aggressively. And so they do, I guess. And then anyway, if Chengdu get back, it's looking okay. SUPERICH hits a Rally on the EMP, which I mentioned earlier is a very important tool. And then Pineapple gets a kill on Anisha. And from there, the Spark just hold. It's around that first corner. It's like the second corner, I want to say, because you get that bridge at the end of Dorado, right in front of that. And then you go to the Sparks offense. And it's just kind of a roll, because you roll egg with a stick on the monk. Well, not a roll, because it takes some time to build that pulse bomb, but you know what I mean. And then they just kind of dismiss the recontest. It doesn't happen very much. you get into stabilization, but then it kind of goes into a spawn camp for the hunters, and the sparks just kind of break through because it's not really sustainable. And they continue with the nano shot capping, and then they overclock and they primal, and you cap out B. And Chengdu do win some fights on C. It does take a while, but then Spark have enough time because it didn't take them very long to get through A or B. They build up their 4 ults, they secure the map win, and they secure a trip to playoffs in LA. And my time to play the match is going to go to Pineapple. I was considering Shy because, yeah, you know what? Shy basically rolled through Pariso, and I'm just going to, but I feel like Pineapple kind of deserves this here. I felt like he never missed a pulse bomb. He was consistently diving with Gushue, and it was just like, Nisha and Monk couldn't live. This whole way through, they had so many deaths. The Spark backline were living so much better, not because they were living better, because they were, because SUPERICH was in, which he was the key. I didn't mention this. SUPERICH is in. This is the first time I've seen him this entire stage. My bad. This is like important information that I should have mentioned right away, because he's the GOAT. And his ability to live on the brig is unparalleled. I think it's like top tier. But anyway, I think Pineapple had some really great clutch performances. Maybe not to the same flashiness or level as Shy, to be honest, but consistently with Gushue on that backline. Great job, great pulse mods. I think he was a big difference maker and definitely was the best tracer in this match, the best tracer today. But it could have easily went to Shy. Maybe it should have, but who knows? Anyway, that's gonna be me. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a good one, and deuces.